When John Cena threw Edge off the top of a ladder and then beat him in a cage match on Raw, as a kid I thought that the slimy, disgusting Edge had finally been compromised to a permanent end. After a year of this man running havoc on the Raw roster and on all of my favorites, I thought I was safe and I thought that the trauma was finally over. But little did I know, this was just the beginning. In October of 2006, 1 week after losing a cage match for the title against Cena, thanks to the interference of DX, Edge came on Raw and extended his hand to this man, the legend killer Randy Orton, a man who had also been carving out his own career of savagery, but after a disappointing 06, with Edge looking at Randy like a kid in the candy store, he gaslights him into believing that DX and Triple H were the reason why his career was going downhill. Randy believed it, and on that night, these two joined forces and formed one of the deadliest tag teams of all time, Rated RKO. And despite only being a tag team for less than 6 months, despite only being created so that DX could have another feud, these two together as Rated RKO would go on to traumatize millions of children worldwide, dominate legends, disrespect anyone and everyone, win tag team titles, and most importantly, become the biggest demons of Monday Night Raw we had ever seen. Rated RKO's run was short, but these two together were the definition of evil, and it definitely deserves a look back at. Let's get into it. The week after Rated RKO was formed, the disrespect was already in full motion. Raw began with the DX music hitting, but instead of the 40-year-old men acting like teenagers coming out came these two buffoons. Fake beard, fake nose, a wig and all, from choking on water to severe back pain, Rated DX was out here. In one of the funniest impersonations ever, these two nailed Triple H and Shawn. Edge walking like he was built like a fridge, Orton running around crotch chopping, humping everything in sight like he was on crack, complete with the two falling over at the end, and oh by the way, the biggest nose we have ever seen. It was hilarious. The team had only been together for a week and it was already like, okay, this is pretty cool, but at this point, it was still all fun and games. Ha ha ha, impersonating DX, ha ha ha, you have a big nose, you're an ex-drug addict with back pain. But what made Rated RKO special was every single week from their inception, from right here, they got crazier and more evil until it reached a point where these two were just full-blown Al-Qaeda. But yeah, at first it was all fun and games, from impersonations to finessing out wins in one-on-one matches. These two slimy idiots, as usual, would always find a way to get the better of DX, whether it was because of interferences or because Edge was a referee for some reason. They found a way to mess with DX in a way that no other team had been so far in this run. And it was all leading to Cyber Sunday 2006, where a tag team match was gonna go down with a special guest referee of the fans' choosing. And for all intents and purposes, this was supposed to be the night where Rated RKO was finally gonna be put up to the test. DX was pissed going into it. I mean, HBK was literally walking around kicking NPCs backstage before the match. And as a kid watching this, I remember it was like, yeah, DX is gonna kill these clowns, because despite them messing with DX every single week, it never felt like they were gonna really win or be a challenge to DX. I mean, it was DX. So at Cyber Sunday, both teams come out, it's exciting, it's fun, DX and Rated RKO put on a great match, it's back and forth, it's competitive, but once again, DX never really feels like they're in danger. But as the match went on, Edge and Randy had an answer for everything. Edge was out here throwing around the most aggressive crotch chops we'd ever seen, and even when things went wrong for them, their boy Eric Bischoff held it down, and eventually, after going back and forth, everything hit the fan. Referees started getting clapped, finishers were getting kicked out of, and Edge, this maniac out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, grabs a chair and I swear to God, hit Shawn Michaels so hard with the chair, his stars were appearing over his head. You can see his soul leave his body on impact. He got sent to CT Heaven, and once HBK was out like a light, it was basically no disqualification, chair in the ring, RKO on the chair. It becomes evident on this night that these idiots love chairs. They're basically horny for chairs, and despite it being all fun and games, Edge and Randy get the 1, 2, 3, and they actually beat DX at Cyber Sunday. Shawn Michaels was out, Triple H was cooked, and these two slimy bastards did exactly what they said they were gonna do, and they beat their oppressors. It was a great match, it was a great moment. Now, you would think that after this, they got their job done, they teamed up, they came together, they beat DX, they beat their oppressors, time to go back to doing their own thing, time to move on. But nah. Instead, it was time to send even more mother Canuckers to CTE Heaven. See, beating D-Generation X wasn't enough. The new goal these guys had was becoming tag team champions, and which poor tag team had the unfortunate luck of being tag champs at the time, aka future victims of Rated RKO? What about the team that had a combined age of 109 years old? Yeah, in the fall of '06, Ric Flair and Roddy Piper were the tag team champions on Monday Night Raw. Roddy Piper, despite looking like Mr. Krabs when he lost his shell, returned and became champion with Flair, and jokes aside, it was fun, it was a nice feel-good story. Piper was about to die. It was supposed to be Randy and Edge versus Piper and Flair for the titles, and after making their entrances first, while the 52-year-old Piper was making his entrance all happy and excited like a proud grandpa that he was, these two guys proceeded to rush him and attack him outside the ring. And it's like, okay, you know, we've seen this before, this typical heel work, nothing we haven't seen before, right? Oh look, here comes Flair to help him out. They bash Piper's brains in. Yo, these two freaks assassinate Roddy Piper and just leave him there. Flair runs to him like, oh my god, what happened? He grabs him, he's trying to bring him back to life, but guess what? You can't mourn, bro. Rated RKO attack him too while he's sheltering Piper's lifeless body for more violence. Flair gets thrown in the ring. Piper is done. He's a write-off. Flair gets speared, and guess what? We got new tag team champions, and the team that was supposed to be all fun and games that just started off impersonating DX, now had beaten DX, assassinated a senior citizen, and now we're tag team champions. DX wasn't even in the arena, so they couldn't hold it down for Flair. It doesn't matter. Rated RKO was in the cut, and it was most definitely a scary sight. Now, DX would take it personally, but at the same time, they didn't really care for Piper, but they would get some revenge and payback eventually at Survivor Series '06, when the two teams were captains for a 5v5 elimination match. Now, DX pulled up to Survivor Series with one of the most stacked teams that I can remember, themselves, CM Punk and the Hardy Boys. The issue was Edge and Randy didn't really have any friends. I wonder why. So they had to pull up with probably the most useless supporting cast you could ever imagine. Johnny Nitro, which is fine, and Gregory Helms and Mike Knox. What are we doing here? Yo, a homeless guy would have been better than 2006 Mike Knox. As you can imagine, Team Rated RKO gets destroyed. Johnny almost gets his girl snatched, Helms was non-existent, Mike Knox somehow stayed employed 3 years after this, and Randy and Edge got embarrassed. They tried running away, they tried everything they could, they ran for their lives, but they couldn't do anything. Both of them got brought back into the ring after all their boys got eliminated, and they got embarrassed. But at this very precise moment, DX might have had their fun, you know, ha ha ha, we embarrassed you on pay-per-view, but this was the moment where everything changed for Rated RKO, because let's just say they took it personally. This is the exact moment where it went from haha, it's all fun and games to demon time, because after this, after getting embarrassed by DX, nobody was safe. The next night on Raw started off just like any other episode and featured a fun 6-man tag match with DX teaming up with their hero, basically teaming up with their dad, Ric Flair, against the Spirit Squad. And to open up Raw, DX and Flair have some fun. They style, they profile, they woo, and they pay homage to Flair and they get the win. And it basically felt like Ric Flair Appreciation Night. And don't worry, Ric Flair is about to get appreciated. Yeah, he's about to be a depreciating asset. So they have their fun, they do their thing, they're hugging and kissing, and DX and Flair, they tell the world that they're gonna go out and party afterwards. They're gonna go out to the club, they're gonna go for a night on the town, they were gonna party like it's 1985 all over again. Alright, no problem, you guys have fun, we'll just sit here and watch Monday Night Raw like the losers we are. An hour or so after DX and Flair had left the arena, as far as we knew, Edge came out for a new segment of his Cutting Edge talk show. And you already know, nothing ever good happens when the cutting edge is out. Edge promised us a very special guest, a guest that is an honor to have on the show. He does the introduction, but nobody comes out. He waits, and more introduction, nobody comes out. And then all you see is Randy Orton in the corner of the stage saying, "Hey Edge, I found him. He just needs some help to come out." Okay. Edge walks over to the arena, and these maniacs, these demons, these two of Satan's greatest soldiers, drag out Ric Flair. Ric Flair, tummy out, shirt basically out with so much color you would have thought the Kool-Aid man combusted on him. He gets dragged out across the arena, barely moving, no signs of life. This 57-year-old man, I repeat, this 57-year-old man had already been massacred, drenched, he was basically dead, and these two savages, these two monsters, they decided that wasn't enough. They hit him with the concerto face first, live on TV, thousands in the arena. They kill Ric Flair in front of the entire world. Yeah, no joke, this was the most violent, the most foul shit I had ever seen watching wrestling as a kid. It was one thing when you watch a wrestling match and a wrestler gets clapped during the match, but this was next level. It gets to the point where it's like, how was this even allowed to be done? Ric Flair is dead. Congratulations, guys. Ric Flair is dead. Edge just caught a body. But at this moment, Rated RKO gets even more cemented as straight up demented, because up until this point, it was mostly the Edge show. You know, Edge was clearly the leader of the group. He did most of the work. He was the one behind all the evilness. But now it was time for the evil to be infected into Randy Orton. It was time for the venom goo to get into Randy. And it just reminds me of when Edge made this face when they first formed Rated RKO, and it all comes full circle. With Flair already out, Edge gives Randy the chair so he can hit him one more time for good measure, fully converting Randy into a straight up psychopath. And what does Randy do? What does Randy do with the chair? He hits him one more time, shout out to Britney Spears, and he makes spaghetti out of Ric Flair's brain. Rated RKO had officially become the biggest demons on Monday Night Raw, giving us one of the most wild, vicious attacks we'd ever seen. Jim Ross was about to have an aneurysm, Jerry Lawler was beyond shook, and then like nothing happened, like true psychopaths. They come out like 30 minutes later to casually defend their tag team titles against the Hardys in the main event. Yep, totally normal behavior, and surprise, surprise, they beat the hell out of the Hardys and retained the belt. Straight up psychopaths, straight up menaces, savages, whatever adjective you want to say, it didn't make any sense. But after this, it was like, okay, next week when DX returns, it was gonna be a wrap, right? Once DX gets a hold of these two, there's gonna be nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Rated RKO was finally gonna catch it. So to open up Raw the next week, it was an 8-man tag match. DX and the Hardys versus Rated RKO and Eminem. It was time for Rated RKO to pay. Edge found a way to win. Bro, what the fuck? Yeah, every week, this team, yeah, they might have gotten embarrassed at Survivor Series, but more often than not, every single week, they found a way to win. They found a way to catch a body. They found a way to make DX look like a bunch of goofs. And after this, Rated RKO said they're done with DX. We are done with the 90s. We are done with DX. It was over. They did what they wanted to do, and they were going to move on to bigger and better things. And can you really blame them? They got the better of DX. DX was no longer a problem. So they move on with their lives, and the next week Edge wins a 30-man battle royal to become the #1 contender for Cena's title, and of course the scummiest way you can possibly imagine, as is tradition. But when that title match takes place between Cena and Edge, despite Orton doing whatever he could to ensure Edge would win, including doing this, that's when DX confirms, nah, it ain't over, we ain't done, you still have to pay for what you did to Flair. They cost Edge the title, Cena retains because of DX, and the beef is back on the plate. And as Raw goes off the air with Edge literally having a mental breakdown and Randy Orton trying to console his older brother, at this very moment, DX up. By getting involved in Edge's title match, the demons once again were back on the hunt, and you thought what they did to Flair was bad? Rated RKO was about to commit war crimes. The next week on Raw, at first, it was just a normal, typical 6-man tag team match in the Raw main event, where the competitors of the two biggest matches for the upcoming pay-per-view were thrown together in a TV match. It was Umaga and Rated RKO versus DX and Cena. And that's what it was for a while, a typical TV match. But towards the end, things got a little crazy. Cena and Umaga start brawling, and they end up in the stage area, right? The match is falling apart. They're in the stage area. The stage starts falling apart. Cena and Umaga are out of the picture, leaving us once again DX and Rated RKO. And at this point, you're like, okay, Edge and Randy are probably going to finesse a win somehow, setting up the pay-per-view match, adding some heat to the match. We have seen this 100 times before. Nah. Instead, once they realized they were alone, it was time to commit some casualties. The tag team match, the referee, Edge grabs a chair, his trusty old reliable chair like SpongeBob has his jellyfish net, and he sends Triple H straight into the fans. He goes back into the ring, and to truly add insult to injury, these two do a double RKO on the chair to Shawn Michaels. And it's like, okay, that's pretty cooked, pretty cool ending to Raw, but nah, we ain't done. Triple H tries to get back in the ring, and he gets sent flying to Africa, and these two just go off. Triple H is like lying on top of Jim Ross, nobody cares. Randy Orton literally sees red and it's go time. Randy goes into a zone that we have never seen him enter before. Yeah, the same man who did this to The Undertaker was somehow even more cooked. Here's Johnny, here's Randy. Randy is going off. Jerry Lawler is trying to get Randy to stop, but that's not gonna work. Edge gets the chairs, places on the table, and with this look on his face, boom, headshot plus 100 XP. I told you they were terrorists, but that wasn't enough. It's Randy's turn. He wants to impress his older brother. Boom, another one. And yo, look at his face. Look at his face. Prior to this, we had never seen Randy get to this level. Triple H is done. He's dead. He's finished. He's washed. It's over. The man is having a seizure. His brain, screw spaghetti. His brain is now straight bolognese pasta, just ground beef everywhere. But wait, HBK is still moving. They start preying on HBK like it's a casting couch, and they were gonna send HBK straight to the afterlife as well. It didn't make any sense. It was like they got turned on by this. They get into the ring, they start flexing Triple H's brain matter to him. The audience just like, yo, what are we watching? And right before they do the deed, Luckily, the trainers come out and save them, and Monday Night Raw ends with the most disturbing ending we had ever seen, and it was all thanks to these two. I will never forget this. I watched this live, and I also watched the Ric Flair one live. This was pretty traumatizing, I can't lie to you. As an 8-year-old at the time, this was unlike anything I had seen, and like I said, it's different when it was a match, right? I've seen Eddie bleed against JBL, no problem. This just didn't feel right. This felt like it was illegal. This felt like we were watching some illegal tape from Siberia. But these two together, at this point, they'd only been together for 2 months. They reached legendary status in the most foul way. After this, they were cemented. No matter what happened after this, these two crowned themselves as demons. And it was perfect because it was Randy Orton and Edge. No two other wrestlers on the entire roster could have done this and came off looking like this. And this all led to a wild match at New Year's Revolution, DX versus Rated RKO, and boy was it wild, because despite that match going down and nothing going to plan, despite Triple H literally tearing his quad in the match, HBK went so berserk and put on a performance of a lifetime and single-handedly improvised the match on behalf of his team and got it back in blood for DX. After months of Rated RKO avoiding the payback, they finally got it dished out and HBK put on a legendary top-tier performance. Rated RKO finally got clapped, they finally got what's coming to them. HBK went off, Triple H with a torn quad and everything, who ended up missing 8 months of action, still had a pedigree on the announce table. Finally, DX finally got the revenge on Rated RKO. But what was funny though, the next night on Raw, despite looking like this, despite what happened the night before, they still technically won the match by DQ and told the world that they still were technically tag team champions, and like the amazing heels that they were, they told the world that hey, we still won the war because we made Triple H tear his quad. These slimy little bastards. They still found a way to win the war, and what a time it was to be alive. For those 2 months when Rated RKO and DX were going at it, it was some of the most electric yet wild TV I had the pleasure of growing up watching. And I remember watching all this stuff live every week. I'm like, damn, like, is this what the Attitude Era was like? You just had to have been there. As evil as they were, as much as I hated them and my friends did, they just had this aura, man. They had so much aura, so much so that me and my friends used to give each other concertos with pillows because we wanted to kind of be like them, even though we hated them at the same time. It made no sense. These two brought so much violence, so much disrespect, so much sliminess. I mean, look at the match graphic Edge had for SmackDown during this point. They were unhinged, but it was amazing. In 2 months, they cemented themselves as a legendary tag team, and honestly, shout out to DX for holding it down. They definitely elevated them. This was just perfect timing and perfect in every way. After losing the title in Edge's case, and after having a pretty lackluster 06 after Mania for Randy Orton, this certified them. And I think there's a reason why 07 ended with both of them as champions, and you gotta give it credit for the work they put in with Rated RKO to really elevate them to that level. Rated RKO though did not end in New Year's Revolution. They did their thing for a few more months. They tried winning the Rumble together. They tried winning the Money in the Bank together. They tried remaining champions after this, but it wasn't the same because after this, it kind of became the whole can they coexist storyline. And as you can expect with these two egos, they definitely couldn't coexist. And a few months later, it all ended in a one-on-one match between them after they both failed to win the WWE Championship and they went their separate ways. The second half of the run was fine, they still had some great moments and they were still savages, but they weren't really together like that. It's the first 2 months though, that's what makes it special, and that was generational. Literally Al Qaeda terrorists. So yeah, they were only together really for 4 months. They were only one-time tag team champions, and yeah, they only had 2 pay-per-view matches together as a team. But yo, the impact they had, the memories, the moments, just generational. I'm surprised it took me this long to cover this team, but once again, what a time it was to be alive. You really didn't know what they were gonna do next and how far they were gonna push it. What a special time. Oh, and like I said, even though I hated him as a kid, yo, of course, when we used to play fake wrestling in the schoolyard, yeah, every now and then me and my boy would team up and be Rated RKO. I can't lie. But yeah, in the comments down below, let me know, what are your memories of Rated RKO? What do you remember watching? What do you remember witnessing? What were your reactions? Were you a fan? Were you traumatized? Were you all for it? Let me know down below. Yeah, this was a really fun time, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's your boy Pav. Hope you guys enjoyed this showdown memory lane. I will catch you guys with the next one very soon. We're gonna have a big March. Don't worry, I promise. See you guys very soon with the next one. Till then though, take it easy. Stay safe. Later, guys.